Welcome back from break. I'm sorry that I am a little late. This is part 2 of our DigIn ESB Symposium. Thank you to Spinach. Thank you to the sponsors of Spinach. Thank you to our diamond sponsors, Picture and Delta Designs. Our first talk is actually going to be 3 short talks, which will be really fun for y'all. So we'll have up Jennifer Trimble, Michelle Tang, Christy. I don't know you. I can't say your last name.
A long one. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for coming, despite the alarms that have been going on. You've persevered. And just as our title suggests, this is a collaborative talk from 3 of us. We are all approaching our digitization projects in different ways. Our first talk is going to be by Jennifer Trimble from the Museum of Comparative Zoology at Harvard, followed by Michelle Tang, also from MCZ. Both of them are working on ESB, and second one is a bit more specific, and the first one is describing the collaborative nature of their work. My talk is the third talk, and I'll be talking about some of the workflows going on here at the California Academy of Sciences for DigIn. And with that, we'll pass it over to Jennifer.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much. I've got like 3 minutes to run through a lot for you. So my name is Jennifer Trimble, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the people involved in ESB at the MCZ. As I always think to myself, people. So a little bit about how we got here today. So at the MCZ, in the Malacology department, we have approximately 400,000 lots currently cataloged, and we use a database called MCZ Base. So approximately 78% of those lots are georeferenced. However, 30% of our holdings in the department are not databased, and those are identified lots. And so through ESB, we're working to meet some grant targets to help through that. So we have 4 main metrics to meet through the ESB grant. The first is to locate our specimens within the collection. And this is arguably kind of the hardest target to meet because our collection is organized taxonomically. It's not organized geographically. And so as you heard in some previous talks, we are going drawer by drawer, family by family to find these lots within the collection. The second is to database about 8,000 new records into MCZ Base and mobilize another 60,000 with georeference data, as well as kind of cleaning up these older historic records in MCZ Base. Our fourth target here is to photograph our primary types across the collection. So this is about 1,500 lots, and we use the 2 setups that you can see here on the right. A Keyence digital microscope, which Alana talked a little bit about, as well as a Canon Helicon focus stacking software. And so across the department, there are a variety of people and processes and protocols that we all use. So the Malacology department has a backbone of staff, which includes Gonzalo Girabet, our curator, myself, the collection manager, Murat Resovic, a curatorial assistant with decades of experience in the collection, as well as Melissa Merkel, who you heard speaking earlier, who has moved from the ESB grant into a full-time position, half-time position in the department. We are also currently hiring for another half-time Malacology assistant for the ESB grant. However, we are lucky enough to have an additional group of people helping us at the museum. You can see them all here, and I'll talk about each of them a little bit. So post-pandemic is really when we started ramping up our efforts for ESB. Instead of cleaning up localities at home, we focused more on digitization in the department. And the Harvard Extension School offers courses online and both in person, and re-offered a course in museum protocols and learning for these 2 students on the right, Jason Rico and Savannah Rivers, who both worked across the month of January to make some spreadsheets for us, digitizing some deep sea protobranch bivalves, as well as rehousing some specimens in the collection. And I'll talk a little bit about Jason's spreadsheet and what happened to that towards the end of my little talk here. So in the middle, you'll see Hashi. Here at the MCZ, we have a variety of people from different departments working together, and Hashi works for collections operations, but is helping us with the most time-consuming part of this grant, which is going drawer by drawer, trying to find these undatabased identified lots across the collection and capture their data. In the last two sections here, we have Juliana Fillion and Michelle Tang. I won't talk too much about Michelle because she'll be up here in about a minute and a half to tell you more about her work. But Juliana Fillion is a half-time staff member in the department who's currently aboard a vessel in Hawaii right now. But she really came in and inherited this spreadsheet, which happens a lot at museums. You come in and have students who come for several months or years, and she just was able to come in and take the spreadsheet that Jason Rico created and make it her own. And within a couple of weeks, because we were using Google Sheets, she was able to see his previously tracked changes and get upwards of 1,000, 1,200 records into MCZ base within just a couple weeks' time. And lastly, I want to highlight Nina Black, who's also here, I believe, as well, maybe not. She's working on a CSBR grant, so this is an NSF-funded grant to subsample the types across the collection, which overlaps greatly with ESB because she's photographing, as well as pulling out specimens in the collection. So we're kind of able to double dip there a little bit. But the most important thing I want to highlight here is our workflow and how we kind of all operate either in the entire scope of this workflow that you see on the right, but also there's some people, whether they're in the department for a couple weeks or a couple years, who just kind of spend time in one little section. And it's really important that we have this web of continuity across the department's workflows so that when Jason creates a spreadsheet in January, another staff member can really pick up where we left off. And so some of the important tools that we've utilized across the pandemic are some of these asynchronous and synchronous learning tools, and we're using things like SharePoint and Slack. I'm a huge fan of Slack, such that we can track changes along the way for things that people work on together and pick up where projects were left off in the past. So I think it's really important to highlight some of these and some of the staff across the department. So I'll hand it off to Michelle, who's going to talk a little bit more about some in-depth workflow in malacology.
Hello, my name is Michelle Tang, and today I cover how I use my workflow to minimize digitization errors, specifically for mollusk collection from LA Burry for the ESB grant at MCZ. This collection was obtained from the Burry Foster Expedition, led by Leo A. Burry, who ran a shell museum and shop in Florida with his wife, Dortha. The expedition took place over summer of 1944, with 40 station numbers across the Florida Keys. When I started this project last September, of the 2,730 lots in this collection, only 28% were databased, leaving 2,000 lots scattered throughout the general collection. We went drawer by drawer and looked for the expedition's distinctive pink and tan labels, ending up with dozens of trays of vials grouped by taxa. As of mid-May, they have now all been databased. I begin my workflow for each new tray of taxa by first seeing if any taxa-specific actions are required, such as sorting by station number for greater efficiency. Then, when doing vial preparation and rehousing, I make sure that both the catalog and station number are easily visible. I also note if there are any potentially misidentified lots, as anomalies tend to stand out among the many specimens. Then, when adding catalog numbers, I order the lots in increasing numerical order, which I double check. I also write down this range of catalog numbers for each taxa on paper to serve as a physical reference for any Excel spreadsheets. Now the vials are ready to be databased, which I've done in two different ways for this collection. The first is record cloning. For a new lot, I find an existing record in the database with the same station number, duplicate it, and update it with information of the new lot. For the fields that require changes, I always go through them in the same order to make sure I didn't accidentally skip any fields. Given the database's design and the data available for this collection, I work in a counterclockwise direction. I also double check the catalog and station number with the vial before saving the record. Additionally, because record cloning involves seeing only one record on screen at a time, to make sure I didn't miss any fields, I give the bulk loader a quick once over once I've entered multiple records. Now the second method is using the bulk loader spreadsheet, which uploads multiple records at once. To simplify and customize the spreadsheet for this specific collection, I hide any columns that I know will remain empty and order the rest based on edit frequency. On the far left, shown in red, I group together the columns I need to update lot by lot. In the middle, shown in orange, are the data fields specific to a given taxa, which remain the same across a group of lots. Next, in green, are the lot-specific data fields that I rarely need to update for this collection. And finally, on the right, are all the columns that I grouped together that remain the same across the entire collection. Once a spreadsheet is set up, databasing just becomes copy and pasting station-specific information, or lot-specific information, which is primarily station information and specimen count. Once the specimens are data, my organization of the spreadsheet is unique to this Burry collection and its data in terms of what columns are displayed and where. This organization, for example, is very different from the spreadsheet that I use to database brachiopods for DigIn. Now, once the specimens are databased, I use the MCZ labels to triple check my data entry accuracy and the ordering of lots. Since it's easy to run on autopilot while going through the physically repetitive process of putting labels inside boxes, I use the positioning of the label to indicate which step I'm at in the process. I also assign the labels in a non-contiguous numerical order to add an extra layer of intention engagement. Finally, given the importance of location codes, I triple check this step alone using my prior notes and spreadsheets. And that ends my workflow. One benefit of working with a single collection is that it's easy to address individual anomalies, such as poor handwriting, or in this case, a poorly cut label with an unfortunate and mysterious station number. Furthermore, the simulators across all the lots, both in physical contents and in data fields, allow for the creation of a streamlined workflow. This also allows me to identify early on any error-prone steps for me to adapt my workflow accordingly. Additionally, it was very helpful to have a finite set of collecting events. Now with this workflow, my resulting work rate averaged 100 files prepared per hour and 190 lots database per hour. To end with some fun statistics, here's how this Burry collection looks across station numbers and across taxonomic class. For a closer look, additional workflow details, and more fun facts, please check out my poster numbered 69. Finally, I took a brief look at how the existence of Burry collected specimens outside of MCZ Malacology, though not necessarily from this expedition, which really illustrates the potential of data sharing across institutions. And among these, there's also 3 paratypes involved. Thank you for listening, and now I'll pass it off to Christina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chrissy Piotrowski, and I'm Senior Collections Manager here at the Cal Academy, where we're working on DigIn. The IZ collection here at the Academy is very large, very historically rich, and has been assembled from diverse sources over the last couple of centuries. As mentioned in, I think it was Melissa's talk earlier, we do have the labels with cryptic numbers that could mean anything, but actually have a lot of rich data tied to them in external resources. We targeted 60,000 lots for DigIn. We also hoped to image all of our primary types. However, we recognize that we do not have sufficient staffing to do all of this work, especially with a little pandemic thrown in the mix. So we decided to mobilize our existing images rather than image all of our primary types. And we have kind of honed 3 workflows that really are able to target these deliverables, but in a variety of ways. The first is through crowdsourcing. During lockdown, one of our staff members, Johanna, actually took home 32,000 catalog card labels and scanned them using a card labeler. And meanwhile, we were building a Notes from Nature project called Invertebrate Time Machine with the help of Michael Denslow from Notes from Nature. I'd like to thank him for his help. And we were able to, with the help of volunteers, we were able to transcribe within a year and a little bit more all of these records. We took the JSON files that resulted and transferred them into CSV files, and now they are sitting in Open Refine, ready to be cleaned. We have way more cleaning than had been anticipated before we can upload into Specify. Second workflow is volunteers who are scanning our labels for us and making transcriptions of these scans. They're applying QR codes, which we use to relabel images, rename images using a Lightroom plugin. They're also putting context labels in so that information not captured on labels, but on the lids or elsewhere, like where the jars are shelved, will be captured as well. Without cleaning and without upload considered, we're doing about 17 minutes per lot on average with this workflow. Our third and final workflow is direct transcription with our fabulous grant technician, Hannah, and she is transcribing directly from labels into Google Sheets, and this has been been a very successful workflow. To try to streamline our workflows, we are capturing what we view is only critical field data. We are, however, capturing those really important cryptic numbers and any other information that we think is really relevant for later. We're not doing any heavy-duty research right now. No heavy lifting. That's going to be done later. Labeling will be done later. A programmer at the Academy, John Fong, who is here, thank you, John, wrote us a fantastic Python script which works with our specify taxon tree and populates higher taxonomy into the record before we upload to specify. So we don't need to actually type in this information. And we found that our grant technicians transcription, the third workflow, has produced incredibly high quality, rapid throughput label transcription at about 6 minutes per lot and very high quality data. So last slide, despite the research shortage that we have had, we've used creative workflows that rely critically on volunteers. We've used about 6,000 volunteer hours so far. We think these scans of labels are going to be very useful later on as we do quality assurance. We found that dedicated staff are very fast, very efficient, best quality data with much less department staff impact due to lessened need for cleaning. Anyone doing crowdsourcing, I highly recommend that you plan for data cleaning well in advance and the staff to do it. And we found, though, that despite the need for shift in priorities due to the pandemic, we're looking pretty good. We've got about 46% of our records in the database, 26% in open refine ready to roll, and then 28% left to do. So we're looking pretty good so far. Lastly, these are our email addresses because I know we have zero time for questions, but please find us if you have any questions about anything that we spoke about today. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Next